Well, good morning. Thank you for joining us today on our Tuesday Talent Series. Today's September 9th. We're super excited today to have Diana Rogers-Yeager with us to share with us leveraging people data to drive results and retain top talent. So this is going to be a great conversation. I'd like to let you know about our sponsor, Plant Moran. Plant Moran is among the nation's largest accounting, tax, consulting, and wealth management firms and provides a full line of services to organizations in the following industries: manufacturing and distribution, financial services, service, healthcare, private equity, public sector, real estate, construction, and energy. This year, 2024, they are proudly celebrating 100 years. Plant Moran has a staff of more than 3,300 professionals throughout the United States, with international offices in Shanghai, China, Mumbai, India, Tokyo, Japan, and Monterrey, Mexico. In Colorado, Plant Moran has served its Colorado clients for more than 40 years, with offices in Broomfield, Denver, and Fort Collins. Plant Moran has been recognized by a number of organizations, including Fortune magazine, as one of the country's best places to work. For more information, visit plantmoran.com. And we're grateful for their sponsorship. It allows us to offer this program with no charge. So super excited about that. So today we have our amazing presenter, Diana Rogers-Yeager, who helps organizations unleash the full potential of their people to achieve high levels of performance through her work as a professional speaker, a talent optimization consultant, and an executive coach. As founder of Love to Appreciate Consulting, Diana provides long-term people solutions that drive better business outcomes in the new world of work. She is best known for delivering high retention leadership programs, helping organizations build a culture of appreciation, and teaching audiences how to create the type of internal confidence that is long-lasting. Diana has a master's degree in adult and continuing education and is a member of the National Speakers Association. She is a graduate of Leadership Fort Collins and Leadership Oklahoma City. Diana's new book, Let Go of the Rope, Create Unlimited Confidence in 3 Simple Steps, is available on Amazon. We're so excited you're here with us today, Diana, and I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you, Yvonne. All right. Thank you all for joining me to talk about leveraging people data to drive results and retain top talent. This is such an important topic in organizations, and I'm glad to see that you all are interested. So I want to start off by telling you about something that my mentor once told me, and I'll see if you can relate. And he said that people are the best part of the job and the worst part of the job. Right? Isn't that the truth? And so one of the highlights of my career was working with a steering committee to put together a statewide affordable housing conference. And it was a group of passionate people committed to the mission. We worked well together. Everyone was accountable to each other. We were able to make a big impact. So can you think of a time when you worked with an amazing group of people and you were able to make a bigger impact together than you were as an individual? Now, on the flip side, like the horror story side, I remember having a coworker who always rubbed people the wrong way. In meetings, he would talk over people. He would make sarcastic comments. I think one of the worst things that really stuck out to me is that he once told a coworker of ours that she had too many family photos in her cubicle. And she was so upset by what he said that she took them all down. So have you ever worked with someone who was that difficult to get along with? And so reflecting on those things, it's really the people, right, who make or break a business. Because when you bring the right people together who have the right talents, the motivation and team dynamics, they're going to crush any goals you set before them. And so for that reason, it's really critical that organizations focus on hiring, developing, and retaining top talent. It's all about the people. That is your competitive edge. And as a talent optimization consultant, I've been doing this for the past 7 years, helping organizations hire, develop, and retain top talent. I started my company 7 years ago, helping organizations attract and retain millennials. If you remember, then everyone was talking about the job hopping generation. Well, guess what? We are now dealing with a job hopping workforce, which is why this topic is so important. And companies need to really look at how they are hiring, developing, and retaining top talent, and looking at new and better ways to do that. So, what's at stake if you're not doing it well? Right? You guys have seen these, and there's so many statistics around them, right? Burnout, low morale, poor performance, low productivity, oh, the expensive cost of turnover. Then, if you don't have the right people in place, then you're not able to deliver great customer service. So then you're getting customer complaints. There's wasted time and there's missed business results. So think about this: low productivity plus high turnover equals burning money. That's essentially what's happening. And if you add to that poor customer service, you're also burning your reputation. So, are you experiencing any of these things on the slide in your organization? Right? And if you had to guess, what is it costing you? Right? What is burnout and low productivity costing you? And think about the number of good employees you've lost in the past 12 months. Is it 1 to 5? Is it 5 to 10? 10 plus, 20 plus, right? Like, what has that done to your business outcomes? So, what if you had insights into human behavior and better people data that you could make decisions that would prevent these things from happening? And so, that is what I'm going to be covering today. Now, let's talk about turnover. Turnover happens for a lot of reasons, but the initial cause that can really create a disastrous domino effect is a bad hiring decision, right? That's the beginning of the employee cycle. And so Career Builder says it costs $17,000 on average. That's what it costs to hire the wrong person. And so this is the average. That means higher salaries, it's going to cost an organization even more. So think about an example of a bad fit. There's a startup company and they need a marketing director, and they look and they find one of the top marketers in their industry, and they hire this person. But after just a few weeks, it quickly becomes obvious that this person does not adapt to change very well. So even though they're brilliant at marketing, they are not comfortable with the pace of change and growth at the company. So for that reason, it's a bad fit, and this marketing director ends up leaving after less than a year. So when you think about the cost of making bad hires, let's take the $17,000 number. If an employee left and $17,000 worth of inventory went missing, would you do something about it so it doesn't happen again? And that's the thing in a lot of organizations, they just kind of, like, oh, turnover, what can we do? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. So let me go over some of the objectives for this webinar. So by the end of it, you'll be able to identify how your organization can utilize science-backed talent, data insights to understand what drives your employees, right? That insight to make decisions. Understand the 4 forces that affect employee engagement and how to protect against them. And lastly, learn how to drive performance through improved interpersonal relationships and positive team dynamics. So when business goals aren't being met, there's often a gap between business strategy and what those goals are. And so what happens in the middle that is missing is your talent strategy. And so you want to have that in place, and talent optimization is the discipline that aligns your talent strategy to your business strategy, right? So everything is always aligned towards achieving the outcomes that you want. And when you focus on talent, I say everyone is in the people business. I don't care what business you're in, you're also in the people business. So it's important to have a strong talent strategy and to optimize the talent that you have. And so when you're really optimizing talent, what you're doing is optimizing employee performance and employee experience. So the performance gets you to your business results, but it's the employee experience that creates that engagement, right? The positive team dynamics of people working together. The reason that people get up and come to work every day, right? Their buy into the culture. So all of that is important as well. So those 2 things are what we want to focus on when it comes to talent optimization. Sadly, though, only about 33% of businesses have a talent strategy that aligns with their business strategy. So there's definitely opportunity there for people to optimize their business with talent optimization. So a talent strategy needs to address these 4 forces of employee engagement. So it's job, manager, people, and organization. So how employees fit with their role and responsibilities, that's one force of employee engagement. And these 4 forces can work for you and against you, and obviously we want them working for you. Manager is that how supported employees feel by their manager. And as we all know, that one-on-one employee manager-employee relationship is crucial to employee retention and job satisfaction. Then there's the people force. How connected employees, respected and motivated employees feel by their peers. And this speaks to team dynamics, right? Most people are never just like working by themselves. They are working in an environment of other people, whether within their department or across departments. And then the 4th force of employee engagement is organization. How connected employees feel to the vision and mission and how much they trust leadership. So that speaks a lot to how committed people are to their leadership and to the organization as a whole. And so how do you harness these 4 forces of employee engagement? Well, you harness them by collecting data. Just like you would collect data on any other part of your business, right? Financial data, customer data, like manufacturing data, if that's the business you're in. So we also want to collect people data so that we can be on top of the 4 forces of employee engagement. And so you can collect data, right, in qualitative and quantitative ways. So there's focus groups, there's different assessments, annual employee engagement surveys, you can have pulse surveys, feedback channels within your organization, 360-degree reviews, absenteeism rates, productivity rates, employee performance reviews, retention rates, exit interviews, right? There's a lot of people data that you can pull from to help manage these 4 forces of employee engagement. So you have to pick the ones that really speak to the business outcomes that you're trying to achieve. And when it comes to talent strategy, the best strategy is a data-driven strategy. So when it comes to people, right? People can be so mysterious, right? And so you really want to take the guesswork that when it comes to important people decisions. So by increasing the number of data points that are part of your decision-making process, you can really improve your outcomes, right? When using data and analytics, you can make successful decisions that then you can repeat and that you can scale. And also, when you're using data in your decisions, not only are you eliminating guesswork, but you're also eliminating bias and subjectivity from the decision-making process. So for example, we all know that as much as we try not to let them be, job interviews are very biased and subjective. And so when you don't use data, people are often making, gut decisions or picking people to hire who make them feel comfortable or who look and act like them or have the same interests. So trying to eliminate that from your talent strategy happens when you're using data. So let's talk about the different individual data points when it comes to a person. So these are really broken into 3 areas. So you have the head. These are a person's behavioral drives and cognitive ability. Right? So behavioral drives are natural ways of doing things. These can be are influenced by genetics and personality. And then cognitive ability is a person's mental aptitude. And these 2 things are stable throughout adulthood, right? They can change some, but they're pretty predictable and stable. So the next data point area is a person's heart. So these are their values, their passions and interests, and these may or may not change over time. Probably their values won't change, but probably their interests will. So oftentimes people look at the heart when they're looking at, is someone a good match for their culture? The third area is the briefcase. So this is the data points related to a person's education, their knowledge, their skills and experience. These are the things that are listed on a person's resume. And over time, these things can change, and they can change a lot, right? People switch careers a lot of times. They get new certifications or new training. And so these are the data points that can really be helpful in making strategic talent decisions. But what's happening is that people and organizations are looking at the heart and the briefcase, but they're often not looking at the head. And this is bad for people and bad for business. So they're putting too much emphasis on the briefcase and they're not looking at the head. So they're not understanding what really makes people tick. And like I said, those data points are stable over time, so it's really useful data to have about someone. So data on cognitive ability, you can gain that from cognitive assessments. And so these are not IQ tests, but they do measure someone's mental abilities and their aptitudes, but they're designed to see if a person is a good match for a specific job. And those jobs where cognitive assessments are useful are often the ones where they have to learn new skills quickly or adapt to new information quickly. Right? So that's kind of what they're measuring, is like, how quickly can people do these things? And so it's not really applicable to every position that you need to really have someone take a cognitive assessment. But what is applicable to every person in every role are behavioral drives. And so these are measured with behavioral assessments. So let's talk more about behavioral drives. A person's behavioral drives can be measured in terms of dominance, extroversion, patience, and formality. So dominance is the drive to exert one's influence on people or events. So you can be low when it comes to dominance, or in the middle, or you can be high on all of these things. The second factor is extroversion. So this is a person's drive for social interaction with other people. Patience is the drive for consistency and stability, and formality is the drive to conform to rules and structure. So formality, when it comes to rules and structure, so if you're in a startup company that is all about innovation, you want someone who's low on formality, right? You don't want them always going by the rules. You want them to break the rules and like come up with new things. But if you're running a CPA firm, you probably want someone who's very high on formality and who does conform to rules and structure. So those are just a glimpse into how this type of information is useful when it comes to hiring and job fit. So with these behavioral drives, other ways to look at it is is someone more collaborative, or are they more independent? So is someone more reserved, or are they more social? So I call that, are they more heads down, or are they more like heads up? Patience. So are they more driving, or are they more steady? And then when it comes to formality, are they more needing to have flexibility, or do they need to have more clarity? And the cool thing is you start off with these 4 factors, but there's also factor combinations that reveal even more information about a person. So their behavioral drives, based on their assessment, can tell you if this person is more task-oriented or people-oriented, if they're more proactive or responsive. Are they comfortable with risk, or are they cautious with risk? So I like to talk about this one in terms of when there's risk, does someone step on the brake, or does someone step on the gas, right? So having the information about someone is very useful. Are they casual, or careful with rules? And are they quick to connect with people, or are they more reserved and take time to connect? So for example, in a sales position, if a person takes a long time to connect, then that's going to be harder for them to develop relationships that they need to make sales. So there's so many ways to get to utilize these insights in making decisions. So really, what the reality is that we are all different, but we are all awesome. So some of us are social, steady, and task-oriented, and others are quiet, patient, and calm, and everything in between. So there is no right or wrong behavioral pattern. It's not better to be dominant or less dominant, because there's different situations where higher dominance is a strength, and other situations where higher domination is a caution area. That's what I like to call instead of saying weaknesses, I like to call them caution areas, because it can depend on different situations. So we're all different, and we all have different behavioral patterns. And what we want to do is not just accommodate the differences in the workplace, but really embrace them and match people to the jobs that make the best use of their natural strengths. So where do these behavioral assessments come from that I've been mentioning that measure behavioral drives? So it is based on behavioral science. So behavioral science studies human behaviors through the use of systematic experimentation and observation. So it's not just gut feeling or practical experience, like this is science-based. And it's used to understand, predict, and influence people's behaviors. And some experts say that we have left the information revolution and we have entered the behavioral revolution, because behavioral science is really changing how businesses operate by creating a foundation for accurate prediction of human behavior. So that's pretty cool, right? I mean, talking about, oh my gosh, being able to predict behaviors and outcomes. So who's used behavioral science to create success? So when Pat Summitt retired, she was the winningest college basketball coach in American history. And she used behavioral science when she recruited players and when she managed her team at the University of Tennessee. So behavioral data gave her insights into her players' strengths and what their needs were. And so when behavioral science told her that a certain player was sky high on leadership and a big risk taker, she knew whose hands to put the ball in to make those last minute shots. But in a different situation, let's say a game where they're only winning by a small margin and they needed to keep that lead, then she knew to put the ball in the hands of the player who minimized risk. So she was making data-driven people decisions that led to a very long history of success. So I want to ask you, how would you make decisions in your organization if you had actionable behavioral insights about the people on your team? Like Pat Summitt, would it change the way you recruit and manage your team members? Behavioral science is really starting to be immersed into a lot of businesses. And Steve Martin, he's a professor at the Columbia Business School, said this about it. Organizations are increasingly recognizing the value of placing behavioral science, the blend of insights from psychology, economics, and neuroscience, front and center of their activities. And so one reason for this embracing of behavioral science in the workplace is that a lot of companies rooted in behavioral science have developed behavioral assessments that are so accurate, it's actually a little bit scary. And for some people, really scary. So I will use myself as an example. When I first read my behavioral report and it talked about my behavioral drives, I was like, wow, it's like someone shining a flashlight in my head. This is so accurate. It's like they know me inside and out, and they really know what makes me tick. So for me, my drives are I'm moderately independent, I'm very sociable, I'm very driving, which means that I'm like a go, go, go person, like let's get it done now. I'm flexible when it comes to rules, and I'm proactive, I'm quick to connect with people, and I'm comfortable taking risk. So those are my natural behavioral drives. And so that leads to my needs, which means I need a role that provides me with independence. I mean, it doesn't, it's not a surprise that I have my own business. That gives me a lot of independence. And also with my consulting and speaking and coaching, I have lots of opportunities to interact with others. I love variety and change, and I love freedom from rigid structure. So based on my needs, you can already figure out what types of roles and positions I would be a great fit for and what I would not be a great fit for. And so these drives show up in my behavior. So I come across as self-confident, I'm persuasive, stimulating, fast-paced, and informal. So this, right, just a snapshot of who I am, gives you so much data about what motivates me, what's in my comfort zone, what excites me, what I need to be happy. And so that is the data points you can use in hiring, in managing people, in leadership development, and resolving conflicts. Because and I'm going to go into an example of how sometimes when people have different behavioral drives, like, it can create a lot of friction. But through self-awareness, that we can address some of those things. And so through behavioral science and that behavioral report I was talking about, it even takes it a step further for some self-development, right? So I can know stuff about me, but we all have our blind spots, right? And so it's good to have some ideas of how the natural ways I do things may not come across in a positive way to others. So some coaching tips for me, since I am very social and driving, that means I'm not always the best active listener, right? And sometimes I don't take time to get input from team members, that I'm just like going, and since I take risks, I'm like, it's okay, I'll figure it out as I go. And so these are great ways to shine light on my caution areas so that when I'm interacting with people who are different, that I know how I come across. And also, there can be coaching tips for leadership development. If I'm managing a team, there's specific actionable items that I need to actively seek input from my direct reports. Where with my the way I am, I'm like, well, if they have something to say, they should come to me and say it. That's just the way I operate. But hello, not everyone is the same as me. So actively asking for input from my direct reports. And also, since I am fast-paced, I may not be always providing enough details to my team. And because I am very informal, I may appear too casual in situations where maybe I need to be more serious. So this information is so useful. And I talk about it also in terms of front of shirt and back of shirt. So the front of shirt is stuff that we know about ourselves, that we put on LinkedIn and share, that we think, are positive. But the back of shirt stuff is the stuff that maybe we're not aware of, or that people complain about us when we're not around. And it's hindering how effective we can be as a team member or as a leader. So it's important that we also have awareness on what's on the back of our t-shirt. So these types of data points are also useful in self-development and leadership development. So when you have the data to predict behaviors, you can predict outcomes. Isn't it exciting when you think about that? So you can, based on information, you can predict how well a person is suited to a role. And the thing about fit is, someone can stretch outside of their natural comfort zone and tendencies for a little bit, but after months of doing that, let's say they're very reserved and you put them in a role where they have to be very social, over time, they're going to start being really uncomfortable and start thinking, maybe I'm not in the right place, and they start looking for a job elsewhere. So having the ability to predict behaviors and outcomes is very powerful for organizations. So, I just gave you a taste about what you already know about me. I'm sure it's already, given you a lot of ideas about if you were to take that to someone else you work with, wow, if you knew those data points about someone you're about to hire or someone you work with, how much better would your relationship be? How much better could you work together? When conflict arises, you have the data to understand where the differences are and address them proactively before they blow up into something really big. So let's talk about people, data, and hiring. So I've already touched on a lot of this, but I just kind of want to put it in this image. So when you start with some deep insights and quantifiable data, and you're able to remove bias and subjectivity and make data-driven decisions, you can take that to really match candidates that are the ideal fit to specific job roles. And when you start off with a great fit and you use the information for better communication and management of individuals, you're improving performance and the employee experience. right? So people are communicating better, there's less conflict, there's more trust, and that then leads to repeatable, scalable success. So let me talk about a case study of O'Reilly Hospitality Management that has successfully used behavioral science and assessments in their organization. So they staff a lot of hotels and restaurants. And as you know, in the hospitality industry, the turnover rate is astronomical. And it was hurting their business because really great people who work well together drives the success of their organization. So as part of their talent strategy, they wanted to hire for better job fit. And they started with behavioral assessments for job candidates. And so they understood their candidates. They created job targets for their open positions using input from the people in those roles and from people who worked with those people, so they could really identify what specific behaviors lead to success in that role. So they're able to use the results from the behavioral assessment and match it to the job target. And very soon they saw reduced turnover and people were happier in the roles. And then they took it a step further and they administered behavioral assessments to every single employee in the organization just to double check that everyone was in the optimal role based on their natural behavioral drives. So their results is in 1 year, they reduced overall turnover by 20%, and then they reduced turnover at certain properties by 50 to 70%. And so armed with people data, it really is amazing how you can use it to replicate your top performers, right? So when you match behavioral drives to job requirements, then you can really understand what it is that you're looking for the ideal candidate who you know has a really high chance of succeeding in that role. For example, that O'Reilly example, when they were looking for front desk managers, their specific behaviors that they were looking for were a person who is collaborative, harmonious, and had meticulous attention to detail. And so they they pinpointed exactly what they were looking for, and they were able to find those candidates. You can look within your organization and outside of your organization. Leveraging behavioral data in the workplace. So I have touched on a lot of this, but hiring for fit. And when you have a better fit, there's faster onboarding, right? Less wasted time. They're able to just get in there and perform at a high level, higher performance, replicate top performers, improve trust and communication. Think about if your first day on the job, your manager sat down with you and they went over your behavioral drives and got clarification on your natural work style. How much trust and feeling of support by your manager would you feel just from day one? It can also be used to prevent and resolve conflict, strengthen team dynamics, talked about self-development, leadership development, and also succession planning. Another case study of an organization using behavioral science is FormStack. So they're a workplace productivity platform, and they are a remote first company. So they were experiencing challenges when they were growing really fast between their managers and their direct reports. And so as part of their talent strategy, they wanted to develop manager-employee relationships. And they used behavioral profiles for every single person in the organization and made those available to managers. And on top of that, made relationship guides also available to everyone in the company so that managers could gain an understanding of how each employee is wired to act at work. And so this led to more productive teams that communicated better and had fewer conflicts. And I'll give you an example of what happened. But they really wanted to focus on individualized management as opposed to a one size fits all. So that was part of their culture and part of their talent strategy, because they understood that managing every employee in the same way is like giving employees the same size shoes and expecting them to be happy. That one size fits all does not work for people. So behavioral drives in action. So this is like an example of what happened at FormStack, but I've changed the names to protect the innocent. So Hermione is thorough and detail oriented. She is high on formality and high on patience. But she works for Harry, who is low on formality and low on patience, which means he is fast-paced and doesn't plan. And so at first they were having conflict with each other, right? Harry thought Hermione was slowing the process down and getting bogged in too much details, where Hermione thought Harry was just, willy-nilly doing things and just seeing what sticks on the wall. So by learning about each other, the solution was that Harry frequently delegates planning and details to Hermione, which frees up Harry's time to work on more big picture ideas. And so that really worked well for their relationship. And in addition, they were given relationship guides that provided more detail about how two specific individuals can work, mesh or don't mesh together, right? So if Hermione is an analyzer and Harry is a maverick, they act and behave in different ways in the workplace. And so there's specific guidelines on how to, when you are going in, let's say you're walking into a meeting with Hermione, here are some actionable ways to interact with her that is in her comfort zone. So give her variety, give her structure, let her think it through, right? So just popping into her office and like asking like a question and catching her off guard is not the way to go with Hermione. And same thing with Harry. He wants flexibility, let him talk it out, give him variety. And then when you combine those two, there's specific relationship tips for the two of them. So Harry should set up a time to speak with Hermione rather than dropping by. Hermione should make sure that Harry is clear on specific action items and next steps when they end conversations, so that Hermione doesn't leave meetings say like, oh, he talked a lot and had a lot of great ideas, but how am I supposed to execute those ideas, right? And so that way she's not feeling, that she is not able to do her job well. So that's just an example of the power of really using behavioral science to improve relationship, trust, communication between people, and to tailor management styles. So research shows that 33% of managers take individual work styles into account when interacting with others. So this, I'm sure you've heard the atrocious statistics on low engagement in the workplace. Like that is a contributing factor of it, right? And your manager treats you the same and they really don't understand and tailor their management style to how you work. So these are some of the top companies that are rooted in behavioral science that are offering talent optimization solutions. So they have different specialties, but if this is something you're interested in, I encourage you to look at companies that are scientifically validated, right? Some are more validated than others, especially in the workplace and used for hiring. So some are validated just for general use, but some are used for workplace and specifically in hiring. Also look for ones that are really going to give you the people data that you need to use in your decision making. Right? So we can be bogged down by data. So make sure you're looking for ones that you'll actually utilize in your decision-making process. And also make sure that whatever data you use, it's something you can easily apply, because a solution is not effective if it gives you data, but is actually not applicable in your situation. So those are just some things to look for as you consider different talent optimization solutions. Some of these companies do a one-time assessment as their product, and others provide this assessment as part of a greater talent optimization platform so that you're able to use it on a regular basis and not just a one-time assessment you send to candidates or new employees. Research by the Predictive Index shows executives are realizing the benefits of talent optimization. Their companies are seeing higher Glassdoor ratings, higher employee performance, increase in strategic success, 3 times better retention of higher performing employees, and 31% less time spent with dealing with employees. And so I have thrown a lot of information at you, and I want to have you consider these 3 leadership questions based on what I've shared. Does your organization have a talent strategy that optimizes employee performance and employee experience? How can your organization benefit from understanding and predicting human behaviors in the workplace? How can you use that to optimize your business results? And then third, what people data points can you apply to your decision-making process? And again, you want data, right, to take out bias and subjectivity, but also it's repeatable, right? If you know what you're using to come to that decision, then you can use that same criteria again and make successful after successful decisions. And if you're curious in how behavioral science can maybe help you solve some of the people challenges that you're experiencing, I really encourage you to try behavioral science for yourself. Can offer you a complimentary workplace behavioral assessment. It only takes 6 minutes for you to take it, and you will get a behavioral report and really understand the power of the people data that behavioral science offers, so that there's no better way than to start with yourself, right? Because you know the validity of it. Like I said, when I took mine and read my report, it was like someone was shining a flashlight into my head. It was just that accurate. So email me if you're interested. And also just connect with me via email or LinkedIn. And I would love to talk with you more about talent optimization and really making workplaces a great place to work. So thank you, and I will open it up to any questions.
You can either, get off mute and ask Diana your question, or you can put it in the chat either way. Guess you did such a good job. I did wonder about your book, Let Go of the Rope, Create Unlimited Confidence in 3 Simple Steps. So maybe you can tell someone about your book.
Yeah. So the promise of my book, which was published last November, is that when you learn to create confidence from yourself, you can never run out of it. I think kind of like with people, like demystifying people. Well, confidence is one of those things that needed to be demystified. And so I really broke it down into actionable ways to build confidence for yourself so that you're not relying on compliments or validations from other people to really build your confidence, that you're able to maintain it at a high level over time. The reality is, even if you have, good confidence, you can, start a new job where your confidence dips because you've never been in that type of role before. So what are you going to do to come out of that dip in your confidence and bring yourself back? And so I have a lot of actionable strategies to use. That's actually what the majority of the book is filled with, because you're creating confidence, right? Reading is a good step, but you actually have to put into action these strategies and create confidence for yourself.
Awesome. Sounds amazing. Thank you. And I did have another question. You and I visited with it at the beginning. So love to appreciate consulting. How'd you come up with that title?
Yeah. So when I started, like I said, I was helping organizations attract and retain millennials. And what they were looking for in a workplace was a culture of appreciation. And so old school managers, had the mindsets like, I pay people well, I appreciate them. And that was a huge disconnect with millennials, right? It's like they're there for the culture, the mission. They want to feel appreciated and recognized for their contributions. And so I did training in the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. And it's still one of my most popular workshops because it is so critical to feeling valued and having a sense of purpose in the workplace. And, generally people do believe it's important, but most people have never been trained in how to do it. And even those who may be communicating appreciation actively, but they're only doing it in their language. So let's say, I'm words of affirmation. So I'm writing everyone thank you cards and, saying thank you. But there are people who think words are cheap. That has no meaningful impact to them. And I have had people in my training session say, yeah, when I get a thank you card, I put it in the trash can. Versus for me, it's like a keepsake, it's like, oh, I love words of affirmation. I'm going to keep this. But for them, maybe it's acts of service. They're like, don't tell me you care, show me by helping me in some sort of way. So it really opens a lot of people's eyes into the importance of appreciation in the workplace and how to do it effectively based on the individuals they work with and not based on their own language of appreciation.
Great. All right, does anybody have any questions for Diana?
Frank, Jennifer, Debbie, are you out there?
Well, Jordan did say thank you. So, and I think it was after talking about your book. So that's great. So, well, wonderful. Well, Diana is a member of the chamber and she has a red carpet event next Tuesday. So if that's something that you're interested in, come join our red carpet. And I know she shared with me, she's also speaking at the Larimer and Weld County Workforce Center's Workforce Symposium next the 24th, right? September 24th.
I don't remember, but it's on a
That's right,
Tuesday.
at Ames Community College, so if you'd like to hear her again. And for those of you who joined today, we will send you out these slides and the recording as well. So thank you for joining us. And Diana, your presentation was great. I took so many notes. I love the front of the shirt, the back of the shirt. I've got some new stuff here as well. So thank you for spending your time with us, and all the rest of you have a wonderful, great day.
All right. Thank you all.